Hello everyone and welcome back to another average review. And this one's a bit different from my usual sort of Marvel Legends reviews, because we're going all the way back to 1992 with the Toybiz Marvel Superheroes super-posable Spider-Man, which, to my knowledge at least, was the very first super-posable Spider-Man figure ever released. So, let's get into the sculpting and paintwork of this old guy. Now, I would like to mention this figure is old and I got it loose, so there's a bit of paint scuffing and missing paint from all the years of play, but overall, the figure's in very good shape, especially with the head. Sure, there's a bit of webbing missing up here, but still, it looks very nice. You know, the webbing is clean, the reds are nice and bright, same with the blues. Except on the upper legs, but that's just due to discoloration. I really like the eyes and the spider logo. They're a very sort of Todd McFarlane-like look, you know, for that really cool, you know, pointed, super exaggerated, muscular Spider-Man that was still, you know, super lean and athletic. The back spider logo, a bit scuffed up, but very, very nice looking. That's a super classic spider logo. All the webbing, super nice, you know, nice and clean. Same on the boots, too. He's got one open hand and one, you know, thwippy hand. Now, I would like to mention the one major problem with this guy that really is the least well-aged part of it, the joints. Because just like a lot of Toybiz figures from the 90s, yes, this was a common thing, they're metal rivets. So, I assume that makes them more durable, but, yeah, they're pretty noticeable and ugly. Still, though, this figure holds up really well. I mean, it is clean. Now, even though this figure is, 30 years old now? Well, over 30 years. Even now, the articulation is still pretty decent, especially since it's a super-posable one. Now, he's got a ball joint at the neck, which gets him a bit of up and down. Fairly good tilt side to side, but it mainly lets him spin around. He's got shoulders that can swivel and hinge all the way up. He's got single-jointed elbows with a 90-degree bend, and wrist swivel. The thwippy hand moves up and down, but the open hand moves side to side. He's got a diaphragm joint and a waist swivel. He gets forward this much, back this much. A good bit of tilt side to side, but not much swivel. But the waist swivel does get him some good turning. He's actually got ball jointed hips, which get a pretty good kick and an alright split. He's got single jointed knees with a 90-degree bend and ankles that can hinge forward and backwards. Sure, nothing crazy nowadays, but I mean, at this point in time when most figures had the sort of superpower style articulation where it was just swivel shoulders, turning head, legs that kick forward and back, and then single jointed knees, I mean, this thing really does live up to its name of being super-posable. Now, since this figure is fairly smaller than Marvel Legends, I'm not going to focus on those comparisons for the comparison section, and instead focusing on Toybiz figures from this point in time, along with a few others. So, starting out, we have one of Toybiz's later Spider-Man offerings. This is from the animated series, well, at least an animated series styled figure, and it's the Octo Spidey body mold. Now, it is bigger and some would argue better sculpted, but it has a lot less articulation. But still, a lot of good points are still there, like the elbow joints and the ankle hinges. For some Spidey villain comparisons, though, we have the Toybiz Spider-Man the Animated Series versions of Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. Here he is with a Toybiz Punisher. He's not exactly a villain or a Spider-Man character, but he was introduced fighting Spider-Man in the comics, so I'd say he fits. Here's Spider-Man with the animated series Kingpin, who is absolutely gargantuan. For some non-Spider-Man villains, though, here's Spidey with the Toybiz Sabretooth and Magneto. this Sabretooth has a really great play feature where there's this switch on his back, and if you press it, now he's got a scarred torso. Sabretooth and Magneto leads us into Wolverine and other Marvel heroes. This Toybiz yellow suit Daredevil, who's having a very hard time standing due to the weird way his legs are positioned and his very wobbly loose waist. Captain America from the Spider-Man Electro Spark line, who for some reason Toybiz decided to make into a hulking version of himself. Speaking of hulking characters, though, here's Spidey with two versions of the Hulk. The left is a much later Toybiz figure in their 90s 5-inch line, Joe Fixit, but the one on the right came in the same series as this Spider-Man. From the same line of figures as this Spider-Man and that green Hulk we just saw is this very cool looking Iron Man. His proportions are pretty odd, but he's in the Neo Classic suit, which is a personal favorite of mine. But I'd also like to bring out the Marvel Legends Renew Your Vows Spider-Man just to show what a difference 30 years have made in action figure engineering. I mean, the broad strokes of the old one are still there, you know, it's a classic Spider-Man with a lot of super-posable joints, but I mean, just look at the sheer difference here. And hey, that's not to say this figure is bad. Far from it. I still think it holds up today, but man, it's just amazing to see the difference. Spectacular, if you will. But, as is tradition on this channel, here's the Toybiz 1992 Super-Posable Spider-Man with the Marvel Legends Hit Monkey and Goliath. This Spider-Man surprisingly still kinda holds up. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you disliked most of Toybiz's old 90s figures. Yeah, they're pretty outdated, but I'd say they're nostalgic and have some appeal, but this guy actually, I could see him being released today as, you know, a simple kid's toy. Which is also how he was released in the 1990s. And guess what? You can still find him for relatively cheap online. I'd say around $10 loose on eBay, or $15 to $20 mint on card, you know, in his box. I mean, honestly, that was one of the biggest surprises for me. One of the first super-posable Spider-Man figures is still relatively accessible. I assume that's because there was so much of him produced, and also it isn't as recognizable as the animated series super-posable Spider-Man. But I think this one is actually a little bit better. Simply due to him having, you know, better proportions and all. But still, if you're a fan of these old Toybiz 5-inch figures, I would absolutely recommend getting this Spidey, since he's one of the best. And so I'm gonna give the Toybiz 1992 Marvel Superheroes Super-Posable Spider-Man an 8 out of 10. He's nothing too special nowadays, but he was a revolution for his time and still holds up a fair bit. If you've made it this far in the video, well, have a great day, 'cause you deserve it.